Hello, everybody, and welcome back to an exciting episode of Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week. I believe this is episode number 33. I'm Mike, and I'm here with my friend Steve. If you're joining us for the very first time, we're two guys that are basically getting back into the comics scene. After being away, after, in my case, several decades of not, going into comic stores. I think maybe I've done it a few times just out of curiosity, but we are back in the swing of, going in, and we've got, when I go into my local comic shop, I say, "Do you have anything for me?" And they pull a few things out. And today, for example, they pulled out, I think, 4 issues, which I'll be discussing next week, actually. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything else you wanted to mention before I kick us off.
No, I think just thanks everyone who has been listening and who comes by, or if you're new, then hope you enjoy. And yeah, we'd like to. It's been an adventure getting back into this hobby. I think it's. Hopefully there's someone out there who can kind of relate to what we're, kind of getting back into the hobby. And it's a whole different, it's not, because you jump in with all the continuity. I'm sure we'll talk about it. It's not always easy. So hopefully we can help someone out there who's in a similar circumstance.
Yeah. Just very briefly, what I did is I listened to your podcast, Steve, and I was like, boy, that sounds doable. You explained it in a simple way. You basically go in, and if you're brand new, you've been away, you just start with issues number 1, and just kind of pick it up there. And of course, you're going to learn more and more along the way. So I'm going to start us off here with Titan Comics, The Savage Sword of Conan. This is, I guess it's issue number 1 by Arcudi, Fafner, Zurcher, and Zub, I believe. May or may not have pronounced those names well. So this is one of those big issues, like supersized comics, and a few things very unique about this issue is that I think there's about 80 plus pages, maybe even over 90 pages. And the paper is more like kind of the newspaper style. It's not very glossy on the inside. Yeah. I mean, there's a beautiful cover on the front. And there's at least 4 stories, as well as, I think there's, some background and a little bit of even a short story written, as it may appear in a book or something. So all I'm going to cover today is one of the stories. It's the main story called Dragon Horde. And I mean, Conan has been around for many years. He needs no introduction, so I won't bore us with that. But we are introduced to very early on in this story, which is kind of more of a typical sword and sorcery tale, but I think has a very strong female character. I believe her name is Ainea, and she's a siege engine builder, like an engineer. So it's a pretty different character right off the bat. And Conan is kind of his typical, in this case, in this story, he's a general. And he's kind of leading his group, and they have teamed up with another like a prince, and they're doing kind of the typical Conan story, which is to enrich yourself and kick ass, and there's battles with mythical beasts. And some really good action scenes and artwork, and I really appreciated the way the artist drew the the faces of the characters. We get a few close-ups, and it's very realistic, and so quite a contrast, I think, to some some of the bigger, set piece scenes in this story. So I'll just say I really enjoyed it. I feel like you're getting a great deal on this issue. I would recommend anybody to check it out. It might bring you back to, more pulp type of magazines or what have you. It's definitely mature audiences. There's some sexy times as well. Like I mentioned, I did not finish the entire thing. There's a few other Conan stories, and then there's one Solomon Kane story, and I did skim to the end, and the Solomon Kane story has very different looking artwork. So there's quite a bit of variety here. So I can't necessarily vouch for the other stories, but the one I read, Dragon Horde, is long, and it's very good.
Just the idea of the old paper, the way you described it, just sounds comforting. I don't know. There's something about that old paper that feels more like newspaper. It just kind of gives you that nostalgic feeling, and it just screams Conan. This is a book I keep hearing about, so I need to check it out.
So it's also all black and white. I forgot to mention. It's almost like a manga or what have you. There's another series that has very similar artwork, and I don't know if it follows it, but anyway, I should have researched that. Maybe I'll look into it the next time we talk. But there's another series, Conan series, that's out right now, simultaneous.
I think it's just called Conan. I believe it's because I hear about that too a lot. I'm not sure. I think that might be in color. I'm not sure. I keep hearing about that one too.
Yeah.
I think
it's a different author.
Yeah. There's just something about Conan that it's a character it's so simple, but maybe that the simplicity is why that character has still kept our attention for so long. It's you would think that a character that would last throughout so many decades would be a little bit more complex, but maybe his simplicity is what keeps him kind of makes it easier for him to go through the years, and there's not too much that, just he is who he is.
Yeah. I mean, I read a little bit on Robert E. Howard as well, but maybe we won't go into it. But I think he was a tortured soul, an excellent writer for his time. He's from Texas, and I think he there was some deep, dark things that were also going on that kind of come through in the character that a lot of people can relate to, I think, too.
Nice. Maybe add that to my list for sure. So my first one this week is Tenement number 9. This is the Bone Orchard series by Image Comics. As usual, the artwork is beautiful. The use of color and tones. We're finally getting some answers for the Bone Orchard Mythos series. With one more issue to go in this series, I'm ready to see where the story takes us, but I also wonder how many more series we'll get in this universe, and how long will this go on, because it's been going on for a while, and I wonder how long will this go before we get some just like a full picture of this universe and kind of what makes it tick. We do get some origin of the universe, and I thought that was really neat. Having read a few of the other series in this universe, I just don't know how long will this go on. I kind of, on one hand, it's neat because you're getting bits and pieces, but on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, would it be more interesting if we had answers, and then you build on that universe and you build on the Bone Orchard mythos, you establish it rather than drip feed details through so many different, spin-offs or books. So, but I enjoy it. There's one more to go, so I'm ready to see where the story takes us.
Can you remind me quickly what is the Bone Orchard Mythos?
It's the series that it includes. It's this one. It is. What are the ones I just read it? Let me look it up. But there's a few different series in the, and it includes Shadow Eater, The Passageway, 10,000 Black Feathers is also a 5-issue miniseries. There's a few other ones. So it's building on it. Gideon Falls is included in it. So
Wow.
just wonder how long will they, I don't want to say drag it out because that sounds negative, but how long before we get some real answers?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That's intriguing. So next I'm going to be talking about Guma, which I've covered issue number 1 and 2. So obviously this is issue number 3 by Ji-Hyun Lee. For those of us who may not remember or may be new today, this is a horror / urban fantasy / crime noir series, and I'm really enjoying it. So we've been enticed by the beautiful covers, seeing these kind of slightly supernatural, scary looking women kind of dressed like nuns, or not really clear, or assassins, which have not appeared in the first 2 books. So we finally get some answers about that. So that was a pretty big change. And I think one of the subtitles for this book is I think it's Beginning of Her, if I'm not mistaken. And so there is kind of an emergence of this new type of character associated with one of the main female characters, actually maybe more. And so I won't go into too much detail because I would love for people to actually go out and read this. The artwork is just really A+ still for me. It's very high quality. It's, in a way it's a big contrast to what I just covered, yet the artwork I also really loved in the Conan book as well. But this is just cranked up by a few notches. There's a lot more action and even gore in this one. I'm not totally sure where it's going because it was like in some ways a lot of things just really ramped up quickly in the last few pages here. So you're like, I wonder where this is headed. But we now kind of have it's almost more of a superhero-ish type of story. So the story has changed a bit, but really interested to see what happens with the main character. Her name is Khalida, actually.
That's a book you picked up. You picked up number 1, I think, when we first started recording. I think that's kind of neat. I think you kind of get attached to a certain series that you enjoy, and kind of when we started all this stuff.
Oh yeah, and I have another one that I think I picked up the first time we started recording, the 2 of us, that I'll be talking about later today.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep meaning to pick that one up, and I keep forgetting because after hearing you talk about it. So the next one for me is Charred Remains number 3. This is by Mad Cave Studios. In this one, we did get some backstory on the characters and about their past, and also more information about the antagonist, or at least a better idea of who the antagonist is or what his motivations may be. Some pretty horrifying stuff, but I liked it. And the pages, I don't know, the pages continue to look like they're on fire. I'm not sure if that's intentional or just my imagination, but you do feel that it feels very oppressive. It feels like the entire time you feel uncomfortable. And I think that's intentional. But the mystery deepens with this one, even though we are getting answers, it does feel like the world, we're getting a better idea of the characters in this world, but it also feels like the mystery is going deeper, which it's getting, it's, I think that adds to it. And the characters are the best part in this series for me. I think the characters are the most intriguing thing, and we're learning more about them, and they feel their imperfections and the things that they struggle with is what kind of draws me back to this book, and that's what makes it interesting. So I'll continue with this one. Pretty solid issue. I think I'm not exactly sure where it's going. I hope it doesn't go more of the slasher route, but so far I think they're doing a pretty good job balancing that and not leaning too much into the villain or into the horror or into more of the into that kind of leaning too far into. They're focusing more on characters, and then you start to get attached to them and they start to feel like people, and then you worry about them being horribly murdered. So I think there's a good balance there so far with this one.
Yeah, I did read the number one, so it sounds like it. Maybe I should have kept going, but I had the same sense as well that the pages kind of look. There was some quality with the coloring that made it seem like something was combusting there. Okay, so I'll be talking about the next book, which probably should have been my pick of the week, or should have been tied with my pick of the week, because I really loved it. And that is Ice Cream Man. It's actually number 38 by W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. So W. Maxwell Prince, we know from Swan Songs. And I actually started reading volume 1 of the Ice Cream Man, and I believe it's an anthology series. I believe that I don't have any issue picking this up at number 38. I didn't get the sense. Maybe there's a chance I'm wrong, but when you hear me describe the story, I think you'll probably agree that this is probably a one and done. So the subtitle, or the title for this issue, is Escape from Garyland. And so Garyland alone is intriguing, and boy, Prince has a real knack, I think, for almost like Twilight Zone, kind of just bizarre worlds. And this is a possibly futuristic story about Gary times 478. There's 478 Garys in this world that we're reading about, and they each have a very specific purpose, and that's repeated a lot. And there's some very kind of surreal tones, and reminded me a little bit about Severance, which is the Apple Plus. It had a little bit of that vibe, which I really loved, and maybe that just says something about me. So we have two Garys. They go by like a certain number that are some main two of the kind of main characters. There's something that happens to one of the Garys, and they start to learn more and more about the world that they're in. And I don't want to give too much away, because I'm pretty sure this is a one and done. I hope that's just enough to tease the story a little bit. I'm pretty sure that it's a complete story. I thought the ending was good, because it actually ended on a little bit of a positive note. So it was a pleasant surprise to me, but I couldn't find too much fault with this. I think maybe this idea of having many of the same person is probably been done before, but it's got a lot of good heart as well, and some good comedy, and I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, now that I know that it's an anthology series, I'm more likely, because I'm tempted to pick it up, but I wanted to start at number 1 because I have the first volume on the shelf. So maybe I'll jump into the next one when I see it, if I can grab that one on the store this week.
Well, I hope I'm not spoiling it for
No,
you,
no,
or and I'm enticing you because I know you really liked the Swan Songs, and I'm enjoying Volume 1 of Ice Cream Man. So if it's that good at the beginning, and the quality seems to have been maintained. I think there may be 7 or 8 volumes. So it's just there's a treasure trove there, I think.
Definitely something that there's certain books, movies, music you just know you'll like. That is this. I just know I'll like it. Just like no doubt in my mind that I'll like it. So
Yeah.
have to give it a shot. It's ironic that the next book on my list is The Ribbon Queen. This is the last issue, issue 8, because I love Garth Ennis and I love Jason Burrows, and I was convinced I'd love the series, and there's been lots of ups and downs. There's been an issue here and there that I really liked, and there's an issue here and there that I thought, why? And it seemed to have the same kind of it would be like a slow burn, and then it would really ramp up at the end of a lot of the issues. I think I'm just disappointed with the way this series went. I think there was too many elements. There was too many things that they were trying to do, and there wasn't a focus on. If they would have focused on one of the elements or one or two of them, I think the story would have really benefited from having more of a focus and kind of drilling that down instead of it being. It felt like it jumped all over the place, and it didn't really. They didn't really hit the landing on any of them, which I'm really bummed out about. I think they just try to do too much, too many things, and I'm just kind of bummed out about it. As usual, the art is great. I love Burroughs' art, and I love Ennis' writing and his characters, but this one just felt all over the place, just issue to issue, page to page, just a little bit too much. So overall, I think it was fine, but this last issue it didn't tie things up the way that I hoped it would, and so it's a bummer. I mean, overall, I think it was fine, but it could have been. It just you kind of feel like it could have been really something great, and then it just was okay. So it wasn't bad. It just disappointing because I had really high expectations for it. Maybe that's on me because I love this team. So,
so this was the finale then, right?
Yeah, this is the end of the series.
Okay. So is it the same team that did Preacher?
No, I believe Steve Dillon, who has passed since then. But Ennis and Burroughs did the 303. They did some crossed together the original series, and they did a few of the Badlands together, and they did a few other things that I can't remember right now, but they've done a few things together. And then, of course, Burroughs did the art for Neonomicon and Providence. And Providence, I don't think gets enough. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but Providence has some fantastic architecture in it, like really detailed artwork that I just don't think gets enough attention. Just beautiful artwork. So very talented creators, but this one just didn't land for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess they can't all be home runs.
No, they take a swing, but.
So I'm going to be covering now Crashdown number 2. This is from, I think they're called Whatnot Publishing. Wanted to investigate them a little bit more because I've not heard of them. And the authors are Garcia, Sargent, and Temple Smith. So just to remind us what kind of genre this is a sci-fi / horror. Got some, alien vibes, I think. And it's hard to describe kind of where we picked up, where we're picking up from the previous issue, because there's several storylines going on here at the same time. Although I did remember at least two of them, and essentially we have a group of astronauts, spacemen that are in their ship, and then another group that have landed on a planet. And so there's multiple storylines for each of those going on, in some ways you're not really sure who is who. I don't remember the characters' names actually, and I don't even think many of them were mentioned here. So there's many characters in a short single issue. I think that for me is a little bit hard to follow, but what I can say is that on the positive side, there's a lot of tension building within the spaceship because of problems, malfunctions that are kind of being investigated, as well as the people that have crash landed on this planet are dealing with all kinds of scary kind of stuff, like horrific monsters, I should say, even, which is kind of cool. I think I felt a little bit lost here and there, but overall pretty happy with this. And the artwork is different. The artwork is, probably mentioned this before, it's unconventional. Sometimes the coloring is not what you would expect. So it's almost got like a neon type of highlighting happening with the characters, hair or the outlines of their bodies or what have you. And in some cases, it's a little bit more cartoonish than I would like. So that's probably why I wouldn't say, it would be like a pick of the week or anything. But I think there's some interesting stuff going on in here. And the ending was really, this one was really took some interesting turns.
Yeah, Temple Smith did the 30 Days of Night series. And he's done other things too, but I think that's what he's most known for. He definitely has a distinct style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's definitely distinct.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it works. I think the artwork is great. Like in 30 Days of Night, I think the artwork is beautiful. Like it's horrifying artwork, but I just don't think it, on popular opinion, I don't think it fit the story. I just think it don't. I don't think, maybe that's because I enjoyed the movie, but yeah, I definitely can appreciate his artwork, but it just depends on the story that it's in for it to work, because it is so distinctive. But definitely a very talented person.
Just one last thing. I think that if it takes you a little bit, it's like you're really noticing it in a way that's kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a, I'm not noticing it in such a positive way. I'm kind of like, that was an interesting choice. I'm on the fence of whether it's a good or bad thing, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess if it comes to the point of being a distraction or it takes you out of the story, then it isn't always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this week, I was at a local shop and I saw Detective Comics 1082, and I noticed it was the Elegy of Sand Part 2. So I grabbed 1081, thinking I can jump on this one. And I know that Ram V is doing a kind of a long Detective Comics run. I thought maybe this would be a good jumping on point for me. Really wasn't. I didn't really know what was going on, but then I also looked into it, and I think there's parts of the story that originated back in comics years ago. So they're building on things that have happened long ago, and I guess if you're familiar with those things, it's a payoff now. But for someone like me or like us, and it's kind of like it doesn't really hit for us the way it does for people who have been reading for years and years. But with all that said, I love the artwork. There's some fantastic artwork, and I did enjoy the writing style. It seemed very, I don't want to say poetic. It had a different tone to it. It felt very, it had like a horror vibe, and it felt very reflective. And the journey that Bruce Wayne's taken through the desert, and his interactions with Mr. Hurt. I think it was all very interesting, even though I didn't know really how they got here or what's really going on. I still enjoyed it, which is some, that's a good thing too. There's also a side story that has a different artist that runs parallel with Bruce Wayne / Batman's journey. So just the artwork alone, I mean, it's just gorgeous artwork, beautiful artwork. So I did enjoy it, but again, I feel like I would have enjoyed it a whole lot more had I known what the hell is going on, because I just don't. So it was a good thing because I felt like it was fun, even though I was a little lost. I couldn't really appreciate all the different story beats because I don't know the history. I don't know how they got here. But just the artwork, if it was just a book with the artwork in it and no text, I'd be like, wow, this is really neat. So, it is what it is. But overall, I think I plan to go back and read the Ram V run once they're done with it. I think this is the last act in his run. So we're not too far away, but I plan to go back and start at the beginning of his run and kind of take it all in, and hopefully it'll make more sense.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, whether you might go back, and how many issues, or do you think it would be?
I think, I'm not exactly sure. I think it was about a dozen. So I think it's about a year's worth of his run, I believe. I think it's quite a few. It's more than 6 or 8. But okay. I keep hearing how great this run's been. So I think I'll hold off on this one. I'll wait until it's done, and then I'll go back and maybe grab the trade and run through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I think that's part of the thing is like we're taking a few chances on stuff that, this is issue 1000 something.
Yeah.
And if it's like enough to, entice you to kind of go back, that's, I think, I'm doing some of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess it's good because it's a way to jump in and to kind of get a feeling of what the kind of tone of the book is, and you kind of get a feel for it instead of grabbing the trade and not being into it. So at least you get you kind of dip your toes in. But there's also, I think, callbacks to Grant Morrison's run in Batman from this series or this story. So yeah, it goes back years. So maybe it'll, I think once it's done, I'll have a better idea of what background I need, and then kind of jump into it, and maybe it'll make more sense. But the writing style is definitely for me very. It just really clicked. It really pushed all the right buttons, and the artwork is just beautiful, just gorgeous artwork, beautiful artwork. Has like a muted pastel kind of feel to it. It's just, yeah. So either way, it'll be fun to have on the shelf.
Wow, that's great. So now is my pick of the week, which is The Holy Roller, number 4 by Image Comics. We got quite a few names of artists, and here Rick Remender, who we know, Andy Samberg, and Joe Troman are all authors, and then artwork by Roland Bashi, I believe. Well, I think just a few weeks ago we talked about, the 3rd issue, I believe, and I just didn't feel like a lot was happening. I think I remembered saying kind of a slow build up, or probably used some other term, because it just didn't seem like a lot was happening. But this one really, to me, did a lot of things right and brought a few things together. But I think the main thing I want to mention is I actually laughed out loud maybe twice, which just doesn't happen that often for me. I might say something's funny, but I may be just laughing on the inside or something. So there's some really good writing and humor in here. It probably doesn't work for everybody. So our main character, who is Levi, continues to bonk people on the heads with bowling balls, and he's really upped his game now that he's now got a costume, and he's got a buddy of his helping him to make fancier bowling balls. And in some ways, it's just comical. In other ways, I mean, there's scenes that are graphic, and he is. I don't think he's definitely injuring people. I don't think he's intending to kill people per se, but he's basically like a vigilante. And I just wanted to share one of the lines in here that I thought was pretty funny. Tell your friends I'm bowling, and hell's bowling with me.
That's great. That's a good one.
So there's a few one-liners that are kind of like Big Trouble in Little China or something like that, or I don't know. I just like some of these one-liners.
Oh, that's a great one. I think sometimes the violence and the graphic content it doesn't hit as hard because it is a little bit ridiculous. So I think if it was more serious in tone and it was a different thing than a bowling ball, then it'd be a little different. But I think you have that kind of like wink and a nod kind of thing where I think if it's done right, it can be very, very fun.
And the other thing is the side characters, like, so the holy roller, the titular holy roller's father is in here, and he's kind of like this older guy. He's an old man, and we have a scene. I hate to share it, but I think it's more one of those you have to see. And he's like scratching his balls. So there's just a few scenes in here, and you're just like, okay. I wonder how they come up with some of this stuff. So it's definitely not like and this guy, is he a superhero? I guess. I keep wondering how he is. I mean, he's getting into fights with people with like pistols and things. And anyway, but I don't want. Won't talk too much about the story, but it is a lot more of kind of trying to deal with these very kind of white supremacist. I think it's not the real world. It's kind of a very close parallel world, but if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and he's got a friend named Jamal who's just also like such another comic relief. So I really, really like this one.
Nice. Yeah, that's we keep talking about it. I wonder if it's another series that I'll probably pick up and grab when the trade is ready. It should be not very far off first trade.
Yeah, it's issue number 4. I don't necessarily know where it's going, but I feel confident that it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think certain stories you're entertained and you get a good laugh, and it doesn't, the story matters, but it doesn't, that's not really why you're reading it. You're reading it just to be entertained and to laugh.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's good. Mm-hmm. So my pick of the week, overall, I think all of my books were pretty good. I think this one wasn't wasn't a heads and shoulders above the rest, but it was one that when I looked back, I think that was the best book I read, which is World Tree number 8. We're finally, again, in this series, getting some answers and something to look forward to. The story is starting to take shape and the characters feel like they're rounding out. The characters rounding out, they're not exactly likable, but I don't really need likable characters to get into a story. And this is my favorite issue of the series so far. It pulled me right back into it. And I think this issue came at the right time because we had been getting drip fed information. And then this issue we get more info on the characters. And now we have almost like a path forward, a goal for these characters. The characters now have, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what our plan is, and kind of brought them all together. And there was lots of exposition, but I think it needed it. It needed something to pull everything back together. And I'm back in the saddle for sure with this one. I was kind of on the fence for a few issues there just because I didn't know where it was going. And I always worry when a story kind of meanders too long, but I think this was the perfect time to pull it all together. And we find, like I said, we have a path forward, and that's exactly what we needed. We needed a kind of floating too much. We needed kind of to get our footing and know, okay, where are we going? And now that we have a plan. So that was my favorite issue of the week.
Yeah, so World Tree is Tinian, right? And
yeah, James Tinian, Fernando Blanco, and Jordi Belair. And yeah, I think it, it's about an undernet that they discovered when they were young, and now it's they were hiding it from the world, protecting the world, and now the undernet is taking over. Now that other people found out about it, and so the internet is shut down, and they're trying to they can't allow the internet to be a thing because the undernet will take over. So it's like a gateway for the undernet to take over. And I think there's some underlying themes about social media and its effect on us, and it's the way that it impacts our outlook, and the things that we see every day that we used to think were shocking is now like, oh, just another day on the internet. I think there's some other commentary going on there, but it's not forward. It's not down your throat, but I think it is there. I think when the series is over, or when we get deeper into it, we'll be able to see more of like, okay, like, I think this is what they were trying to explore. I don't think it's really making a statement more so than just exploring it, just kind of raising questions and saying, kind of looking back now, how different do we feel about certain things, or how have we changed culturally and in society since the last 20 plus years or so.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think that's really important. I think comics are supposed to do those kinds of things. The reason I mentioned Tinian is because I think he's like doing like 3 or 4 different series simultaneously. So he's really in demand.
Yeah.
Right now.
He's a busy fellow for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it for me. Cool. So,
yeah. I mean, I just got to say again, I really had a great week. So I just really lifted my spirits. I kind of needed it too. So
yeah, it is good when you have those kind of lukewarm or down weeks, and then you have a really great one where it's just went after. And I think part of it is that we're starting to learn. They were kind of getting the hang of what to take a chance on and what not to, and kind of trying different things. So I think that has something to do with it too. Just kind of finding our footing on what we'll enjoy and what we won't enjoy. But sometimes we'll get some stinkers, so it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. So that was episode 33 for us. We'll be back next week to talk more comics. And if you'd like to connect with either of us, join our forums at pagestewing.com. Come by and say hello. If you jump on the forums, I do have to approve everyone's membership, so it may take me a little bit of time, but always you can DM either of us when you get there, and we have a club for the podcast you can join, and we're open to any questions you may have, or if you need a hand or just want to say hello or tell us how wrong we are, come on, and we welcome anyone, all the interaction. That's kind of why we do this. So, but a really great group of people in the forums, and lots of discussions planned for not only comics, but movies and books, and you name it, we're talking about it and having a good time. So until next week, we will talk to everyone soon, and hope everyone has a great reading week.